when the age happens, all have to do with certain electromagnetic disturbance fields. Yes, on the eclipse or a pre-optic event, yes, having to do with certain acclimated planets going into conjuncture. And yes, has to do with maybe the ascension speeds as well and higher awareness.
Is there anything I need to fear from this event?
Well, like I said, electromagnetic the impulses, there's knockouts at certain streams of events being. I mean, if I were you, I wouldn't look straight into the sun unless you had a good old reason. I know people are saying do it. If you can take that and it doesn't affect you, that's it. But to those who have problems with their eyes, don't fuck up your eyes first. I mean, common sense. I'm sorry. We might have Nibiru X going in a conjunction with this with another. But if you want to look at it a little bit better. That's all I'm saying.
Everybody, welcome to episode 48. Blue, how are you doing?
I'm good today, Mike.
Hey, what are we going to talk about today in episode 48?
Well, one of the things we'll be discussing about is the star races of Aldebaran, a certain type of Aryan Nordic race that had time influxes on helping and assisting Germany and the actual first spacecraft that they had affiliated with at the time.
You know, it's curious because you said Germany. I think we're going to talk about a certain person here. But before we get going here, please make sure you click like, subscribe, follow, click on notifications so you're notified when we post new material. And speaking of new material, check out my new shirt. You got a shirt just like mine. Look at that. Very nice. That's our new logo there, folks. And Blue sporting a hat there as well. So if you want to get some of this stuff just like we're wearing, hey, go ahead and click on the link in the comments there and help yourself support the cause here. Blue, let's get right into it. Let's jump right into 48.
Yes, absolutely. Aldebaran, and the link up is a certain affiliated node of effect. The Aryan race, and who had assisted certain Hitler at the time, the pre-war agendas that had happened. Now, in accordance with this, a certain Maria Orsic to build the Vril, which is an affiliation code to the certain star unit at the time. And they had pre-opsis effect to maintain psychic abilities and affiliated nodes of extraterrestrial technologies. We had spoken before of how Hitler had supposedly been a time traveler, but there was an extensive relay code between the actual sect of Germany and the things that happened in between the pre-war. How he and or her had disappeared too. And or around the times that they had manuscripted and made this into existence with the help of these certain races from this planetized dimension.
You know, I looked at the photos that you had sent me, and it appears a lot of this Nordic race, they're very pale, they're very white, and the thing that first jumped into my mind is the narrative of white supremacy throughout the world, throughout the country, our country especially. That's the first thing shouted by people when they can't win an argument on merit, when they can't win on the facts. The first thing is it's a racist thing. So my question is there any connection to what you're telling me with the Nordics and white supremacy?
Well, there's certain species that have an affiliation code had helped to construct and build the Earth's first UFO. So this wasn't a part of the negative stance of things. This was a part of the beings or the bearers of light that had instructed a certain person upon the realm to help put a certain technology into requisition around the time. Yes, they may have been in coordinates with other things that did not go into a good event. And then they may have go in accordance with other things that may relope into other events. But regardless of what had been going on during this time, this was just a push into the agenda speed of why they had certain Nazi symbols and star units, and people may have noticed on and off during years. And why, okay, they constructed man-made. Yes, very well may have been so. And I'm not just talking about them. I'm talking about just other sects of other countries too. Other perimeters of other nations that have similar aspects, that have constructs or motivational techniques that were in place from other beings from other star systems. And these beings do look like humans. These Nordics, these Aryan races, or type of Nordic race, there are several types. Just like there are several types of gray races, reptilian races, this, that. These types of races are in by a sequencing code that go on neutral to positive agenda speed. Depending on this, they just help push something forward.
You know, you had mentioned about Hitler being a potential time traveler, and we had talked in the past about Hitler. But one of the things I find most fascinating is he's part of a theory of things that I've been nursing for the past like 40 years, and it's been slow, but it's been processed in my mind. Whereas there's a lot of people that are worth more dead than they are alive. There's a lot of world leaders, whether we agreed or disagreed with them. And let me give you an example of the people that are worth more dead than alive. And just off the top of my head, MLK, RFK, JFK. You can go in pop culture with Michael Jackson. You can go with Elvis Presley. You can go with a bunch of famous people that all of a sudden their family's net wealth jumped after they died. They're releasing new music from the grave. Oh, this music we didn't know existed before. Now we're gonna stop. And the same thing with Hitler. You know, there are people who have investigated and hunted down trails to Argentina. There's a lot of questions about gold missing and German submarines and German trains and Japanese coordination with storing gold that was stolen and pillaged from the Jewish people and for all the countries that they conquered at that time. It was a fine arts collector. My thing is, if he was such a time traveler, is he still here today? Is he here in another form? Why didn't we see the body? Why don't we have a tooth? Why don't we have a hair? You know, you would think nowadays with the DNA potential that we have to trace things in genealogy and probabilities and so forth. I understand it may not be 100%, but at least we would have finality. At least we would have closure. You look back to just in the past 20 years. Did you see Osama bin Laden's body? No, you didn't. He had a respectable burial at sea. Stop with that. So here's my question. Do you think it's possible that Hitler is still alive today?
As a time traveler and indexing speed and having affiliated assistance from other terrestrials is a very big possibility. And because of the what happened between him and her and the disappearance and dealing with the certain acclimated Germany-made UFOs, that we have a concern of certain database streams of beings. But we need to understand that the technologies being produced into existence need to be produced on a finality code for the proper thing. And if at the end times, and they did not put a good code of effect between that sequencing base years ago, then maybe they could data analysis it as well with other technologies and put it in course effect so the whole entire planet could utilize such technologies or such motivations right. Maybe we could learn from the past, motivate into the future. That way we're not messing up again. That way we're using the things proper that we're giving to us.
You know, two things I want to do here. One is, first off, don't at me. I can already see the viewer mail. I can already see the comments coming. He would be 115 years old or however. I get that. We're not saying that. We're saying as a time traveler, he can elude age that way, you know, moving back and forth in time. My second part to that is you said something very key to me. very key in my core here, what I believe. We went through this period where people were tearing down statues and monuments in our own country here. And you yourself just said what I've been saying all along in regards to that. You're gonna repeat history if you don't acknowledge it. We're not saying these people were heroes and we worship them. We're not saying these people were right and we want to follow in their path. If you don't learn from your mistakes, what are you doing? What are we doing if we don't learn from our mistakes? I say we because as a collection, as a society, as a culture, we need to embrace the past. We need to embrace history. We don't need to go back with revisionist goggles and rewrite history. Our current politicians have this system where they say things, and then 2 years later, when they realize it blows up in their face or their policies aren't working, they say, well, we never said that. We support this. It was the other side that said, stop. The one thing they have in their favor with that is it's real hard to go back and find data on that first misstatement because the MSM, the mainstream media, is in on it with them. They will hide, they will bury, they will revise. If you don't think that's happening, folks, you're not paying attention. So hopefully you're paying attention. And one thing I want everybody to pay attention to is you can always go back to previous episodes. What did we say about Hitler in the past? You go back to 47 and you click on the little timestamp right next to his name and boom, instantly comes up what we said about Hitler then. It's a great way to go back and catch up, or great way to go back and go ahead, double check, make sure we're consistent on what we're saying here. If they obtained the first UFO, what was the barrier, you think? What was the obstacle of getting them to use that against us?
It was the first Germany-made UFO. Just like they had other affiliated UFO zoning affairs through several sectors, several countries, through other different species. These certain types were acclimated with them. And obviously with the lady, Maria. But the only problem around this timeline is certain beings in utilizing such technologies. And it may not be the UFOs. It may have been the time-traveling devices, certain other types of devices at the time. And to not put things proper and start a chaoticness. Or it maybe helped initialize something. Now, if we can reverse this timeline interval and find a Peace Corporated timeline interval instead, like I had said before, remove the negative stance and find a positive outlook through it. Acclimate the technologies and provide an outlook and around the whole entire perimeter of the planet for extension frequency streams so we'd be able to have a proper age coming up. Humans can deserve the advancements, but they got to learn the priorities and property streams to utilizing it. It's very important. If you know negativity, you're going to create negativity. If you know positivity, you're going to create it. You got to have inequality. If you're too much negative, it will decommission everything.
I know we got a bunch of stuff to cover. Just one more brief thing here on this.
Yes.
Right after the war, there was a bunch of heat on the administrations for bringing in some of these people who were the scientists and lead personnel in the cutting edge technology that Germany was developing. They were developing rockets with the ability to reach us in the United States from Germany. We have that rocket technology now today. The import of Wernher von Braun and his folks and his team and those scientists that came over. That kind of brings me right into our next topic here. What's going on right here underneath our very nose out west?
On the Dulce space, subject of a conspiracy theory claiming jointly operated human and alien underground facility exists under the Mesa Aracuda on the Colorado-New Mexico border, near the town of Dulce, New Mexico. Now, the affiliation claims of alien activity are very high there. I mean, you think about Groom Lake, Nevada, Area 51, they have a lot of that too. But this goes even further. Now, remember, we had talked about alien bases before underground, how they have substantial codes affiliated between both the technologies, whether it's deal with UFOs, whether it's deal with rumors of extraterrestrials, intake streams, paranormal, whatever. This had one-two of another acclamation of maintaining the aperture between CIA and I believe NSA and others as well to relieving certain affiliated codes and moving something else in instead. And we're thinking about higher psychic awareness streams, being able to utilize certain psychic abilities that certain other beings have, humans don't. Being able to utilize the technologies and or beings and or species from other dimensions. There's a cooperative event that in cooperation, the genetics, as well as the biolaboratories underneath, are utilization codes that create a mainstreams in the DNA structures of some of the mankind itself. Think about people, we talked about the Nordic races. Now think about humans that are albino. Think about genetics that help play that vital role of very rare species as it is. We had talked about this before, a rare genome effect, that certain of these albino humans could have a rare genome spectrum of the Nordic species. That DNA structure could have been constructed from biolabs and then reanalyzed through micro-annulated effects, through shots of partaking streams, even through pharmaceuticals people are not aware of. Well, where does it come from? Where does it start? They have an assistance and help to maintaining biogenetics for mankind and other species. Yeah, this could be played as one of them. But if you can take that type of biogenetics properly, you can go forward. And take it on proper, though, it can be a negative stance, which humans are concerned about. Between experimentations and... Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, I've been watching this show. It's been on for a couple seasons. I saw the first 2 seasons on Netflix, and I'm almost done with the 3rd season on Peacock, and then they're out of them. It's called Resident Alien. And I'm getting chills because exactly what you're talking about here is where they're at there's an underground base, and there's a guy here who's a resident alien, and there's other ones here that are hybridized, beings from other places. So I'm kind of getting chills with what we're talking about. I've seen and heard of these things. Hollywood, we've talked about Hollywood before being responsible for dripping things out to people, because you can't just come out with it and go, this is happening, here's the alien, boom. You can't do that because people's heads would explode. So it's the gradual progression of things to get people to understand. My thing is just as we know about this base here in our area, is it possible that the evil forces, the good versus bad battle we constantly see, that they have something similar and they're using it for evil intentions?
Well, this is just like many of the other biogenetic labs that go underneath. And they deal with messing around with this DNA genome effects. This could be certain gray structures, as well as certain other types of affiliated codes, as well as what they want to do core extension and to seeing what types of technologies that they can mess with. Yes, they have housing for aliens there, ETs. I'm not going to say, I'm just going to put this out there. Some of it might not be good. Some of the ETs that are housed there, they might be negative ETs and they might be hurting them or whatever. Unfortunately, look, it could be one way or the other. You think about abductees. Yeah, they be put in these labs, but you got to think about one onto both sides of the agenda speed. Humans can mess with the biogenetics of ETs. ETs can mess with the biogenetics of humans. And or the biogenetics could be worked in between both coordinated zones. This is just so much deeper. And I do want to go into one more thing.
Sure.
Remember, we had talked about rakes before.
Yes.
RAKES. They have underground bases that went wrong in Florida and a couple other areas that resulted in these species pretty much breaking out and breeding and creating havoc around certain areas around Florida. That's why they have certain sects and military and zoning areas where you cannot go in because of these species. They are real. There are subspecies that went wrong because of biogenetic manipulation. I'm saying it could go right and it could go wrong. And if it goes wrong, that's what happens. It gets out of hand. And then you have to have personnel helping and maintaining those zoning affairs. And I can guarantee you around Ocala, Florida, around the Midwestern parts, around the northwestern areas, foresty areas. They have certain affiliated zones. These species have been seen by mankind.
It's amazing stuff that we have. It's amazing times that we live in. I'm glad we're able to see some of these things and witness some of these things. And I'm glad you're able to have the information to deliver to the people here based on your positions, like with the Space Force and the Federation. I could talk about any one topic that we talk about here on the show forever, but I know we got a bunch of stuff to fit in here. Can we jump right into the SCP Foundation?
Yes, SCP-252, the Humboldt Squid. Now, think about seeing certain... Well, you've heard of krakens, right? Now, think about seeing something big like that in the ocean with your eye, but that extension code is not really what it seems. Now, with the Humboldt Squid, it has that type of paranormal effect. It's a subspecies of the Deciduous gigas, which is obviously a squid. There's noticeably, the males are mature species, noticeably smaller than average, reaching no longer than 1 meter in length. But the perception of a human and the behavior of what they do when they want to go after their prey, it affects the mode of effect. And it can cause them to see something much more than what they're already foreseeing. It's a shifting hypnotic effect on the prey itself. Humans, animals, whatever, when they see it, they're more visual into of something that will have extra tentacles. It will have a wavy mode. It'll create a scare, or pretty much stop that being from motivational code. It will create more fear upon the being. More traumatic experiences, metamorphosizing.
You know, I can't help but get chills again here, because we were just talking about, and I mentioned the show Resident Alien that I had been watching, and the extraterrestrial, the principal character who takes a human form here on Earth, their descendants are octopus and squid. They're related. He can communicate with an octopus, and it's crazy. What you're telling me though about this SCP-252, this is a dangerous being then.
Well, it can be, but if you're not exposed to it, and you're away from that perimeter, it won't create as a danger if you're not considered its prey. If you're considered its prey, it will create a behavioral hallucinogenic effect and go after you and create a mass and fear replicated traumatic experience.
Crazy.
So it's something maybe should be monitored, really, because it's still kind of an unknown quality of one of the inner subspecies of the oceanic realms. And humans have to understand there are thousands of different types of subspecies out there that they have no idea what they are. And there are similar types of jellyfish that can actually create some type of effects. They can create color lights, or they can, there's a certain type of jellyfish that can actually maneuver itself and change shape and form, or other type of octopi.
It's crazy to me.
There are certain type of octopuses that can alternate color too.
It's crazy to me because we've talked about USOs before and possible underwater bases, and the planet's 2/3 water, folks. I mean, where is it's just math. It's just numbers. Where's the best place for things like this to take cover? The next one you had mentioned, though, Cash or Ash. This one intrigues me as well.
SCP-263. It's a black and white television bearing the logo of the Thomson Company. It matches a no known model of television, but has a similar style and construction to televisions built in the year 1961. It's fully intact, has sustained minor cosmetic damage to the screen on one frame. It's been observed to function even though when not connected to a power outlet. You don't even have to connect it. The thing turns on its own. Now, when switched on, the TV always displays the interior of a studio. The sign bears shows from the 1960s logo saying Cash Rash. And we have this one male who's in there. And the only man visible in there appears to be of a human Caucasian descent. And he starts asking, is one person who sits in there. You have to have one person at a time. You can't have 2 or 3 or 4. You can't have electronical devices to remote. And what the thing with this is you have to answer these certain questions correctly. Anyone on stage who wishes the subject lots of luck in answering 3 fiendish questions. And they have to get each one right. Proceed to ask the questions, and they'll be always related to the environment surrounding the SCP. So they'll ask questions about the environment, ask questions about the person itself. Outside of a closed structure, you cannot get, obviously, it's considered cheating, so you can't get no replicated causeway from another, and if you get it wrong, then you get to be internally combusted. And those who normally get internally combusted get about like a 45-second acclimated code, and I believe you get pre-ops before then an inquiry. If you get it right, they level it out, but more or less, if you get this wrong, you die. And if you get it right, you get a prize. And usually with the prizes itself, it's just, there's certain beings and entities out there you really don't want to screw with. I'm sorry. But the prize is a marble figurine, a clockwork figurine, a gold-plated miniature figurine, statuette. They're all worth a lot of value. But the ensnarement code is if you get this wrong, you go. And this SCP shouldn't be messed with unless you know what the hell you're doing. So yes, it would be considered as Euclid, which is a kind of in-between status.
The first thing that comes to mind when you're talking about this is a popular game show in the recent past, the past 20 years or so, maybe 30 years. Who Wants to Be a Millionaire? And can you imagine somebody sitting in that chair and not getting the question right, and boom, a bolt comes down or something, and they're just vaporized. They're just turned to ash immediately. That's basically what we're talking about. Get it right, win. Get it wrong, you're out of here. Next contestant. Crazy.
Pretty much. And it's only one person. You can't have 2 or 3, and I think with the certain electronics, they'll consider it cheat too if you do committed full with that.
Wow, that's crazy stuff. And what's even more crazy is I can directly connect to this next one you sent, SCP-399.
Atomic manipulation rings. The ring consisting of 2 metallic bands linked up by 6 metal bars, which is like a ring, an unknown make and quality, and bears no identifying stamps. What gets interesting with this is when the bearer wears it, the human being, placed on the finger, it activates. It's inactive though when it's not being worn. When it is activated, it will begin a process of acclimating dependence on nearby energy sources, and as well as the neural stance code of the actual module itself and the manipulation that the actual module can do around the perimeters, whether it's capable of manipulating or reshaping objects within a 5-meter radius, depending on the levels of complexity.
This is crazy because I want to make sure I'm clear. We're talking about a ring, kind of like a ring that I have on my ring finger right here. It's a ring that somebody would wear. Yes. If you've been watching any TV or pay attention anywhere on the internet, we now have a thing like this. It works like a Fitbit type thing. It can tell your heart rate, your blood pressure. It can tell your health. It can tell how you sleep, and it can do all these things. Is that kind of using the same technology, but for a good, yet this... It's different.
Think about Lord of the Rings. Think about that ring. Think about how it can draw in energy and it can manipulate things. Kind of similar, but it's different to this. It can levitate, cause levitation, do things, manipulate things, but it controls the air temperature quality. It draws in the energy from the air, the energy from certain particles in the air, depending on how much energy is being used up. It doesn't hold the energy, though. It has to draw it in every time the being utilizes it and use certain types of higher psychic awareness streams. But it could become something. It could become something on a massive negative level if it pulls in too much energy at once. And we're talking about something through atomic levels, where there's just too much radiated air. You don't want to mess with that or get too of a low quality for that type of energy usage, because it pretty much it could expand outwards.
Wow. It's amazing to me. I always find these SCP very fascinating. And folks, go back and check out some of the SCPs we've done in previous shows. Again, just click on the link in the previous episodes, click on that little timestamp there, and you'll be taken right to those other SCPs that we talked about. Blue, anything to report from your positions with the Space Force and the Federation?
Yes. The container ship. The container vessel and what had recently happened with the bridge. That, and with these types of ships and cargo ships, and look at The Simpsons, the TV series The Simpsons. It's all scripted. We are the audience. They play out these shows before shit like this happens. This was set on purpose against this bridge. And I know a lot of people are wondering what the hell went on. Oh, it's tragic. It's tragic because it was played out purposely. These barges just don't ram into these types of things on accident. That was an important bridge.
There's a lot of questions with this if you know where to look. If you can look at the video itself, yes, there was a power outage, but you see, it looks like it almost steered directly into that pylon there just before. And, the cover stories and the stages set up, there were less tugboats available for escort through this channel. You can see the power going on and off. You can see a plume of black smoke, but a ship without power doesn't automatically turn into a pylon at the last minute when it looks like it might only scrape it. So, there's a bunch of questions. We've talked about other things that kind of relate to this. People are calling this either a black swan or a false flag incident. It's going to have a huge impact on the economy. Inflation, like we don't have enough of that already. Is this all part of some grander, bigger, evil plan out there? You're saying it was scripted, but is this part of the good versus evil? This is the bad guys.
Yeah, yes. That was purposely done from the negative side. This is not something that needs to be constructed and decimated further. Obviously, positive side of things wouldn't cause this. Now, another thing we need to talk about is on Easter. And the Biden administration claiming Trans Day of Visibility. This is going to provide an issue because this is not just one, but of many holidays that they are currently rerouting. They are trying to put transgender into the mainframe of the divine calling codes of these certain celebrations and trying to remove that. And they're taking Easter egg thing designs at annual events, militaries, anything religious theme away. If we can't have an equal standard between both, then we shouldn't even have celebrations. And this is going to come into that event. If they keep pushing transgender celebrations, we're going to have to cut that off and create a diplomatic stance in between. So humans and families and proactive spirits could still have an equality. So shame on them for acclimating this. This is way out of commission here. Uncalled for.
It's amazing to me that they're catering to something that's less than 1% of the population. I could go on. And like I said before, we could spend a whole day on any one topic we talk about, but we always try to pack as much information into each show as possible.
Well, one more thing.
Go ahead.
Pay attention to what's coming up with Planet X and coming up with the 8th and the Eclipse, people. we had discussed about this before. Just pay attention and the high winds and the electromagnetic disturbance fields that have been playing out between this past few days into next week when the 8th happens. All have to do with certain electromagnetic disturbance fields. Yes, on the eclipse or a pre-optic event. Yes, having to do with certain amalgamated planets going into conjuncture. And yes, has to do with maybe the ascension speeds as well and higher awareness.
Is there anything I need to fear from this event?
Well, like I said, electromagnetic the impulses, there's knockouts, there's certain streams of events being. I mean, if I were you, I wouldn't look straight into the sun unless you had a good old reason. I know people are saying do it. If you can take that and it doesn't affect you, that's it. But to those who have problems with their eyes, don't fuck up your eyes first. I mean, common sense. I'm sorry. We might have Nibiru X going in conjunction with this, with another. But if you want to look at it a little bit better. That's all I'm saying. Because the star seeds, we may be able to handle it better, but humans.
Again, I could talk about that for hours too, but we only have a couple minutes left here. Let's jump into ET of the week.
Yes, Tall Nordic Whites. We talked about the Aryan race. This is another type of race. Now, the Nordics are counseled as one of the main distributors of the races of life, Annunaki terrestrial heritage. The reason why I say Annunaki is because the Annunaki runs along lines of different types of subspecies of humanoids. Depending. Descendants and protectors of one of the genetic and technological growths of mankind in several other dimensions. And we already talked about the white, fair skin, living hidden amongst mankind for many eons, obviously, but there are not many. We'll see them. And some people have albino intake streams. They may not know it. They have. Others might. There could be some hiding in between. A fair albino skin with blue to light, golden red eye color. So they mainly have blue or golden red eye color. So heights range between 5 to 5 feet to 6 to 8 feet in length. They can become quite tall. They have really white, fair hair. Their hair is like whitish, blonde white. Really thin, very intellectual beings.
And again, I know we talked about
with the Galactic Federation too.
So I know we talked about them previous. This is good guys or bad guys? Again, I want to be clear.
Well, good.
Okay.
Depending on the Nordic species. There's several types of Nordic species, either good or equal stance, meaning neutral. So these types of tall whites have affiliated with the governments. They affiliate on the Preoptic Effects Galactic Federation and cover-ups, obviously, with the USA and others as well in the gender speed.
You know, it's fascinating to me because if you look back at our own history, folks, you look at what we consider Nordic people and people from that area over there near Europe. You can find it fascinating that that's where a lot of our melting pot of a country came from. There were primarily light-skinned colored people that came here initially, and it's amazing to me that you can connect that. It appears to be a connection. So there's definitely a connection between this Nordic white race and that European culture of lighter skinned people.
Yes, very well so. It could go into that core DNA structure.
Wow. And just like that, folks, we are out of time. I mean, what a fascinating show. A lot of stuff. If you're like me, you're going to go back and listen to it again. Do that. There's no harm in doing that. Do that. And we're always available for your questions and comments on the socials. Blue, lots of great stuff again today. Great job wrapping up episode 48.
Yes. Thank you, Mike.
All right. We'll see you next time, folks.